This is Jonathan Ferguson, the Keeper of Firearms and Artillery at the Royal Armouries Museum in the UK, which houses a collection of thousands of iconic weapons from throughout history. And I'm your host, Dave Jewett, and today we're continuing our fight for managed democracy by checking out more of the weapons of Helldivers 2, this time including the ODST Warbond.
Tie-in stuff I found historically can be a bit disappointing. You think, well, this isn't as good as the guns in the game, so why would I use it? The Halo rifle seemed like it was actually worth using, and you get the nice first-person view with the iconic round counter and the housing and everything, and it feels like a Halo gun, but in your Helldivers game.
Make sure you check out our Patreon for an extended edition of this episode, but without further ado, I will throw it over to Jonathan.
Yeah, so is this brand new?
It's one of the newer weapons. So do you remember the Constitution that we saw last time? This is marked as a sort of upgrade to that, hence the name Amendment, which is very good. It's a ceremonial weapon, but there are some details on it that we'll get to that references the lore behind the gun, seemingly referencing that it's a ceremonial weapon, Super Earth got invaded, and all these parade weapons, ceremonial weapons, have been fast-tracked, upgraded to have a magazine well fitted to it to increase the firepower of these ceremonial weapons, because it was all hands on deck, every able-bodied soldier to the front when Super Earth was under attack. So all these ceremonial Helldivers, all these ceremonial weapons were brought out, magazine well welded onto the side of it, and people were sent to defend Super Earth from the Illuminate.
Interesting. I don't see any evidence of kind of welding on.
There'll be a close-up to the magazine well.
All right, that's interesting. Right, yeah, that's a little confusing insofar as this is clearly meant to be based on the M14, much as the Constitution was like an 03 Springfield with some changes. As I'm sure viewers will know, the M14 right from the beginning, and this is almost the beginning, this is the T44 E6 in this case, which is a Springfield Armoury trials rifle for the M14 program. It is illustrating that right from early on, this thing had a magazine well on it. It was one of the kind of key deliverables, as it were, of the new rifle, was that it should be everything the M1 Garand was, but give you a 20-round capacity with the ability to swap magazines, or to clip load the magazine on the gun, which is something they actually did in service as well. This is a bit different from the M14, so if you're thinking, oh, they haven't done a very good job of the M14, well, they've made it look different deliberately, obviously, and also the T44 has a different looking front end to the actual M14 that ended up in service. The mention of semi-automatic, the vast majority of M14s issued had the selector switches removed or never fitted. But it also mentions can fire 3-round bursts. So a semi-automatic rifle that can fire 3-round bursts is what we call an automatic rifle. I mean, yes, we make the distinction between mechanically controlled bursts and true fully automatic, but it's mechanically the same result. It's automatic fire. So slight contradiction in terms.
You know, last time I said the weapons of the new Warbond were themed around experimental weapons. Each Warbond has a theme and sort of tells a story, and this Warbond, Masters of Ceremony, came out during the invasion of Super Earth, which is why there's all these ceremonial soldiers using sabers, and this weapon and some of the visual details hints at it being like we're literally under attack. We need to retrofit all of our weapons to stand up against the Illuminate menace and make them as powerful or as useful or as easily accessible as possible, so every soldier, every individual on Super Earth can have a weapon.
Yeah, I can't really think why the magazine is canted down at an angle like that.
You can see in that first-person view there's a very sloppy weld around the magazine catch.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen designed weapons with welds like that, so not impossible.
I think it just stands out more because every other Helldiver weapon's very clean, and even the rest of this weapon's like very clean lines.
Yeah, they're just sort of seams, aren't there? Maybe some screws or bolts holding things together. There isn't really a visible weld on anything else. How does it play? Is it effective? I'm guessing it's more effective than the not Springfield.
Yeah, that one's no one uses the not Springfield, the Constitution. This one's actually really good. It's got really nice accuracy, one of the better marksman rifles, I would say, and it does have a bayonet in case you need it. Not that it came up too much. It does feel like something's gone wrong if you're relying on your bayonet while playing Helldivers 2.
What's worse is when you know you should be hitting your bayonet melee key, but you're so overwhelmed you're not even doing that. Ask me how I know. Yeah, this rings a bell. The so-called humane compliance weapon. What could go wrong? 2 separate magazines, one for armor-piercing flechette rounds and one for stun rounds. Yikes! I think you'd need to label them the sides of the gun at least. Sorry, that was the lethal side. It's very it's very on brand for Helldivers, though, isn't it? To have a both lethal and less lethal weapon built into one with no ready means of not killing people by accident.
But you can see that the switch on the top will actually change. That's the only visual indicator on the weapon that we can see that actually shows you what magazine tube you're using.
So you better know your left from your right.
Yeah, so there's some Helldivers out there holding their fingers up like, which side do I use?
So how does the less lethal aspect play into this? Because surely you don't want to be just disabling. Is it just a good anti-automaton stun thing?
Yeah, it'll stop like the larger automatons from machine gunning you with incendiary cannon. But it means like if you stun an automaton, it means like you might be able to get around side the shield or shift focus to ensure you're hitting the weak spot, because they'll just stand there and then just take a few extra shots.
Now we have of course seen dual mag tube shotguns that I'm sure have inspired this on some level, but I think we already had a straight up lethal version of like a KG-12 or something. Sorry, KSG, Kel-Tec KSG I think is what I'm thinking of.
Yeah, there's a few other shotguns that work in a similar way with dual magazine tubes. Most of those just have the same ammunition in both tubes. This was the first one that allowed you to switch tubes and switch what type of ammo you're using by doing that.
Collect tunnel breach! Canister's empty!
Some of the names are a bit on the nose, aren't they? Crisper. P72 Crisper. A flamethrower pistol. Okay. I can't think the last time we saw a pistol-sized flamethrower. I think we have seen at least one once before. In theory, very limited utility because of the lack of storage for fuel, but we'll let them off.
The only thing that came to mind, and this was just because Battlefield's been on my brain recently, Einstoss Flammenwerfer, the German single-use small flamethrower. And I did have to look up how to pronounce that, and I probably still got it wrong.
Yeah, I suppose the reload is fairly like the amount of flammen you can werf is fairly low before you have to reload. Most game flamethrowers that go for the non-backpack approach go on for way longer than they ought to, than physics would allow for. I mean, I think you're probably still projecting a bit more fuel than you ought to from that tiny tank, but it does feel like relatively limited range, relatively limited capacity compared to the full size. I see you have to screw it in place before you lock it in as well.
There's enough flamethrowers in Helldivers 2 now that you can have a flamethrower in every equipment slot.
Really?
Your sidearm, there's a sort of rifle type flamethrower as well that we've not looked at yet, and obviously the stratagem call-in flamethrower. So if you want to werf some flam.
Yeah, interesting. I can see what this and the shield I could see being somewhat helpful.
Yeah, the shield helps you not set yourself on fire, which is good.
That's always good. Not being on fire is definitely my preferred state.
Say hello to democracy!
So this is sort of the way it's loaded almost makes it look like an RPG, like an RPG 2 or RPG 7 derived thing, which in pistol form would be a really bad idea. There's no tube to carry the backblast past you rather than into your armpit or whatever it would be. But then it's sort of almost like a rifle grenade vibe to it. I'd say it's probably more of a pistol rifle grenade. What we used to call, or I guess we now call, a hand mortar. To think of those, like almost blunderbuss looking flintlock of the 1600s, 1700s, where you're launching a sort of cartoon bomb with a fuse in it out of the end. It's kind of closest to that, really. Those would have some brutal recoil from the weight of the projectile or the munition, and this would as well. There's a lot of weight in that. So that doesn't just limit the range, as we see with that arcing trajectory, it also breaks your wrist. There's a, I won't say sweet spot, because I don't think it'd be very sweet, but a point at which you're getting it far enough away to be effective, but not breaking your wrist. That's what you're working with there. And there's nowhere near enough recoil depicted, really, for the mass of this thing. It does have a shoulder stock on it, I see. So it's part standalone grenade launcher like we have now, and part RPG/mortar/PAT. It's quite cool. It might have been fun to have you can only fire, make it super powerful, but you can only fire 2 shots before your arm breaks and you have to heal it or something.
If you join our Patreon right now, you'll not only get a longer, deeper, extended edition of this episode, but you'll also get early access to next week's episode, plus dozens of other Director's Cut editions. By becoming a patron, you get early access to all of our future episodes, as well as podcasts, Discord access, and you can submit your own game or movie clips for future community episodes. Either way, whether you join our Patreon or watch along on YouTube, I want to say thank you for supporting us, and now I'll get back to the video.
Heavy, north, 50 meters.
GL-52 De-Escalator. A humane grenade launcher firing high-powered arc grenades. That's contradictory, but very Helldivers.
Appropriately contradictory, yeah. Yeah, another Milcor-inspired rotary grenade launcher. I do like the idea of a humane grenade launcher. And of course, De-Escalator. I mean, they're trying to be sincere in that you're less lethally de-escalating the situation. It's not a full-on ironic name of, well, de-escalate the hell out of this situation. In theory, you are stunning people, things.
Well, the arc systems in Helldivers is just it's like Tesla coils. You're just shooting very intense taser grenades at automatons and terminids, I guess. So it has some of that stun effect, some of that AoE effect.
Ah, right. So it's kind of lethal against automatons because it overloads them or whatever.
And it'll be lethal against everything. Even the less lethal weapons in Helldivers 2 do a certain amount of just damage.
I mean, that's realistic. This is why the nomenclature changed from non-lethal, because any weapon that has an effect can be lethal. If it's truly non-lethal, it's not going to do the job that it's required to do. It's down to the user and training and doctrine and everything to make it as close to non-lethal as possible. These offset hand grips are always a bit odd. There have been a couple of attempts to do that on real guns, but it's kind of directly under or perhaps off to the side seems to be optimal. If it's at an angle off to the side, you're kind of immediately inducing some cant to the weapon that's not really ideal. Even if sort of ergonomically it might be better to reach and grab something on the side, we don't really see that done very much, except for expedient firing, grasping the bipod legs together off to the side, or that kind of thing. That gets done, but that's kind of making the best of a design where its primary intent wasn't to hold it like that. Oh, yeah. I am a fan of, typically in games where there are projectile weapons, I'll use those in lieu of the energy weapons. But I do like the laser weapons in this game quite a bit.
And so as the description says, this is similar to the LAS-17 Sickle model, but instead of the heatsink dying out, all the safety conventions have been removed from the weapon, which means it will just overheat in your hand, eventually igniting the Helldiver. So the only way to make this weapon really optimal is to wear armor that is resistant to heat damage. Doing that means you can hold down the trigger for ages. Otherwise, you just sort of combust and fall over or have to dive and stop, drop and roll. So it's this weird, tying together the armor and the weapon for an optimal build, where the optimal build is built around you setting yourself on fire and remaining on fire so you can keep firing for as long as possible.
Oh dear. Yes, I see your point. Yeah, you're looking a bit singed there.
But if I didn't have that armor on, I would have died by then.
Yeah, I'm all for making outfits relevant and not just being cosmetic. Whether that's armor actually being useful, like in Kingdom Come or something, where it behaves somewhat like real armor and makes you pretty impervious up to a certain point, or something where the sort of status effect of the weapon is tied into the outfit. Because when I played the bulk of my Helldivers, it was pretty much just cosmetic. There were minor benefits to wearing different suits, but none that seemed like a big enough benefit to change out of my standard outfit I've had the whole time. The sort of vaguely Judge Dredd looking one.
It's not a huge difference, but the planets do matter when choosing your weapons as well, mostly with the laser weapons. I can't recall if we've talked about this before, but on an extremely cold planet, heat-related weapons will cool down faster. On a super hot planet, that's reversed. They'll cool down much slower. So the optimal use case for this is super cold planet, heat-resistant armor, holding down mouse 1, having a bunch of stims at the ready.
Makes sense to me.
So this is the first weapon from the Halo ODST Warbond. So this, how we had the crossover weapon from Killzone last time? Since the game launched on Xbox, they did an ODST collaboration. So there's 4 weapons from that Warbond that we'll take a look at. And I've also included some of the clips from Halo 3 ODST, so you can see their inspirations as well. But interestingly, they've made some design decisions to make them work in the world of Helldivers 2. And I think this SMG is the first suppressed weapon.
After some of the crazy Helldivers stuff, this seems almost tame.
This being a suppressed weapon and the armor passive for the ODST armor, reducing the sound of footsteps, does actually make it possible to play stealthy.
Oh, really? That surprises me.
Also included that shot of the Hulk there because it's very rare that you get to see the 500 kilogram bomb hitting something and doing damage with sheer blunt force before it then explodes.
Oh, is that what happened? Oh, yeah. Wow.
So you see the bomb hit it in the arm, break the arm, and then detonate?
That's very cool. Yeah, so the magazine on the side. So it's sort of a little bit P90, but it's on the side, not slightly puzzling as to how the feed mechanism is working on this. But
it's hard to see, but when you see a reload in first person, it looks like the caseless rounds are vertical. So there must be some mechanism inside that's also rotating them 90 degrees.
I'm surprised how effective this is against automatons. You'd think pistol rounds, even space pistol rounds, would be pretty rubbish against essentially armoured things.
In the Halo lore, it fires 5x23mm caseless rounds.
Yeah, that's tiny and not very powerful. That's like probably less than MP7 ballistics, unless they're using some super powerful propellant. Not sure if this is Helldivers enough. I think maybe Killzone's a better fit. On the other hand, it makes Halo fans very happy. So.
That's empty.
See, that's more like it. So I have had a brief go with this, thanks to my friends on Helldivers 2. And again, tie-in stuff I found historically can be a bit disappointing. You think, well, this isn't as good as the guns in the game, so why would I use it? The Halo rifle seemed like it was actually worth using, and you get the nice first-person view with the iconic round counter and the housing and everything, and it feels like a Halo gun, but in your Helldivers game. Weirdly enough, without feeling like, well, what's this doing in my Helldivers game?
Kept the slap in as well, which I appreciate. But I felt the same. This thing packs a punch. And there's a detail that might be in the other Helldivers rifles, but I hadn't noticed before. I did notice while using this. Is the last sort of half a dozen rounds that you fire become red traces to signal that your magazine's about to run low.
Cool. As we know, that's something that has occasionally been done in real military history, where you would have the last few as tracer, so you knew when you were about to run out. We haven't picked up a gun for a while, so why not pick up the thing that we are told did not inspire the Halo assault rifle, and not the other way around either. But it sure does look quite a bit like it. I mean, there are obvious points of comparison. Bullpup, black, great big triangular section housing on the top. Yeah, this is the F2000 for those of you who've been living in a cave for the last 20 or so years.
I'm glad they didn't add a aim down sight, like a true aim down sight functionality to this. I know it sort of clashes with the other weapons being able to do so, but you're just sort of firing over the weapon. But if they added like iron sights or turned the ammo counter compass into an optic, there would have been rows. And I think they made the right choice.
It's a very good point though, because how are you supposed to actually aim this thing in Halo? Obviously the game comes from an era where aim down sights wasn't so much a thing, and so they designed it without an optic on the weapon. But is there an in-universe way that you're supposed to be able to aim this? Is it all head-up display driven?
That's a great question. I should look into that, because you see the Spartans use it, that it's implied they have a heads-up display to help aim things, but the Marines that use it all have these big helmets with the visor over.
There's a bit of this that is actually more FAMAS than F2000, which is that hump on the rear of the stock there. And if the sequence of events is as claimed, then this can't have inspired it, but the FAMAS logically would have. So is this really more of a FAMAS with a filled-in, different shaped carry handle? M6C, yeah, that rings a bell. SOCOM. I mean, in that it's huge and black and has a laser aiming module on the front and it's called SOCOM, I'm obviously thinking Mark 23, but it isn't very much like that otherwise. Lots of recoil, interestingly. What's this supposed to shoot?
The ammunition type in the Halo universe is 12.7 by 40 millimeters.
Oh, holy cow. Okay. Right. Well, I wonder then if if it's a Spartan weapon, they're controlling the recoil, keeping the muzzle down, and they have respected the law in Helldivers and made the normal human have like Desert Eagle level recoil. That would seem to me to be the reason for this.
It's an ODST weapon, so it's used by human special forces more than it is Spartans.
Oh, fine. In that case, no. They've just decided to, weirdly, to be more faithful to the law than the game it comes from. Can't help thinking if the cartridge is that huge and the felt recoil that much, that maybe it shouldn't be so quiet. Seems fairly effective for a pistol. It's funny, the knuckle bow trigger guard on pistols is, I think, exclusively a movie game trope. A bit like the thumbhole stocks on sci-fi rifles, whereas thumbhole stocks are a thing in reality, but not used on military infantry weapons outside of things like sniper rifles, because it kind of just gets in the way of you getting a grip of the weapon, adds a little bit of weight. You may as well just have a little trigger guard. But it's one of those, this is futuristic indicators. / cool looking. It's an easy way to break up the silhouette. You know, if you think about firearms through history, for a long time they had almost the same silhouette, from the earliest properly stocked arquebuses all the way through to 20th century bolt action and semi-auto rifles, you know, wood and steel or iron, with a very similar profile, really. Trigger, buttstock, forestock, barrel, that's kind of it. And then obviously things change a bit in 20th century, but it becomes very difficult to, if you're trying to instantly say this is other, this is alien, and or this is futuristic, the easy way to break up, to change that silhouette is to slap some sort of bow on it.
Sentry.
Sending down sentry.
Calling down a sentry! Engaging terminal.
A new shotgun. This is another Halo shotgun, weapon, I'm guessing.
Yeah, so this is the final Halo weapon. In Halo lore, the 8-gauge shotgun.
Oh, okay.
Interesting, the biggest change that they've made between taking the weapon from Halo 3 ODST, bringing it to Helldivers, is adding that side loading gate for the first round when empty, because otherwise it's just top loading. But because the weapons sort of need to have a reload from empty state for them to make a bit more sense, they've added that side gate for the first round, and then the rest is topped up from the top loading gate.
Oh yeah. Immediately I'm struck with, and this is more of a Halo thing obviously, but the fact that it's an ODST weapon but for normal humans, but it's 8 gauge? That's kind of nuts. That's a ton of recoil and weight to carry around.
You see how much it recoils on screen on the Halo 3 ODST footage. I'll have to double check whether that is the same when a Spartan is using it, but it is the sort of USNC's default shotgun, so...
I have to sort of speculate that Halo, as well as ripping off Doom Guy, I said it also kind of was inspired to, like, by the emphasis on shotguns in the Doom games, which in turn comes from, ultimately from Aliens. The idea that futuristic Space Marine type folk would use what's essentially a 19th or 20th century shotgun design. They've embraced that by giving infantry a standard shotgun that is huge caliber. 8 gauge is significant, or 8 bore if you're in the UK. 12 is, can be a handful sometimes, depending on what you're shooting. 10, 8 is massive. The amount of recoil that generates, the gun there has to be big and heavy to cope with that. Yeah, I'm not really getting that. If you just presented this to me and said, this is a new Helldivers shotgun, it's 8 bore, what do you think? I'd say nowhere near enough recoil. And given the potency of the rounds, I guess it is one-shot kills, depending on what the enemy is.
Yeah, most Tyranids were going down in pretty much one hit, or at the very least, pausing to think about their next course of action after taking one hit.
Rethinking their life choices, yeah, exactly. I'm always concerned with these long-term multiplayer online games that, if I get in early and I like it, that they'll drift away from what they were and I won't like it anymore. But every time I come back to Helldivers, I'm like, nope, you're still doing it. People seem to still really like it. You haven't lost the spirit or the intent of it.
Well, as of recording this, tomorrow they're also bringing out their next Warbond. And we've been talking about Helldivers 2 now for over a year. Came out February 24. And we're still finding new things to talk about. And the next Warbond features a mini missile silo that you can call in from your super destroyer. And I'm very excited to try that out. Thank you all for watching. Let us know your thoughts in the comment section below and tell us what your future predictions are for upcoming Helldivers 2 Warbonds. Hit the like button if you enjoyed the video and subscribe so you don't miss out on future content. As always, a huge shout out to all of our supporters over on Patreon for supporting EXP and for helping us make cool content like this. Links to support Jonathan and the Royal Armouries will be in the description below, so please do go and check those out. But until we see each other in the next episode, thank you again for watching and we will see you real soon.